And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker. Zeinab Kahera is did I pronounce it properly?
You did.
Okay. Zeinab Kahera is a career coach and proud Black woman business owner with extensive experience in supporting individuals across various industries, particularly in STEM fields like web development and data analytics. Holding a Bachelor's of Business Administration in Management and a Master's of Education in Counseling, Zeinab is dedicated to helping individuals navigate pivotal points in their professionals' journeys. Her coaching stands out for her ability to guide clients through their emotional aspects of their journey, through the emotional aspects of their career journeys, empowering them to make informed decisions aligned with their goals. With over a decade of experience in recruitment, hiring, coaching, and customer service, Zeinab holds a holistic perspective to her coaching practice. She values creating safe spaces for transformative experiences and teaches clients the importance of embracing authenticity for career success. So without further ado, I want to welcome Zeinab Kahera to Culture Chats.
Thank you, Dr. Dobijoki. I love saying the doctor part because I know you earned it. Okay, listen.
Good thanks. Good thanks.
Well, thank you so much. I'm recognizing some of the names in the audience. So anyone that came through my promotion of this event, thank you so much for joining, and thank you to everyone who's a part of the Culture Check community who decided to join as well. We're so grateful to have you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. And we're going to hit the full screen here, friends, and we'll be ready to go. There you go. And Dobijoki, I don't have the access to the chat. So if anyone has a question, we'll do it towards the end, but if there's anything you need to call to my attention, by all means, please feel free to interrupt, okay?
No problem.
All right, beautiful. So today's conversation, I'm using a presentation format, but this is really gonna be a very casual conversation in that what I'm talking about is probably concepts that you all have been exposed to before or have encountered or interacted with before. So my goal is to just give you a different perspective of these concepts and hopefully give you some tools to leverage them even further. And I also want to start with just an intention. So my intention is for you all to receive this conversation with clarity and insight. And I'm sending everyone healing energy for peace, for enlightenment, and for knowledge. Okay, let's get started. So the name of this conversation is called Journey to Confidence, Uncovering Your Strengths Through Self-Exploration. And as Dr. Dobijoki mentioned in my bio, my career coaching is centered around helping individuals navigate the emotional elements of the career search, of the job search, right? I find that a lot of the parts of finding a job are pretty black and white. It's the navigating the insecurities that come up, the fears, all of those things that make it most challenging for folks. So this is kind of in the realm of the type of work that I do with my clients, okay? All right, so here's a quick agenda. The first part of our conversation, we're going to talk about discovering the parts of you that you can confide in. We're going to talk about how do you leverage your confidence traits. We'll talk about what those are as well. And then we're going to talk about how to navigate your triggers and get back in alignment with your confidence traits. So, discovering the parts of you that you can confide in. So I'm really big on scaling. And so I really wanted to scale this conversation around just some themes that I feel will come up a lot. Obviously, in the title, we talk about confidence and self-reflection, but another part of this conversation is grace and trust. And we're going to break down how all of those elements show up. Okay, so here's some quotes about grace that I thought gave a great, I guess you could say, had a great touch on how I want to dig into each of these elements. So by Brene Brown, she says, grace means that all of your mistakes now serve a purpose instead of serving shame. Brene Brown is very big on shame, right? She has some great books on talking about how to navigate shame. Lupita Nyong'o, self-reflection. The beauty of self-reflection is that it helps you realize that you are not the mistakes you have made. You are the opportunities you've taken and the moments you've seized. Peter T. McIntyre, confidence. Confidence comes not from always being right, but from not fearing to be wrong, right? And then lastly, Stephen R. Covey, who wrote the really great book. It's one of my top, I'd say 5, the Successful Habits of Highly Effective People. Trust is the highest form of human motivation. It brings out the best, the very best in people. Okay. So let's talk about first grace and self-reflection. So practicing self-reflection with grace involves acknowledging and embracing your imperfections and treating yourself with the same understanding and empathy you would extend to others. It allows you to learn from mistakes, grow from challenges, and nurture a positive self-image. Grace enhances the effectiveness and the depth of self-reflection. And like I mentioned before, grace is very critical when you are self-reflecting, because we develop habits, right? Sometimes we're taught and we're conditioned to develop habits where we can be very critical of ourselves, right? And we don't give ourselves the benefit of doubt that we would give other people. So we have to make the intention of adding grace into the equation when we're doing self-reflection. Okay. So now let's talk about self-reflection and confidence. So now that you started reflecting and you made sure that you include grace into the equation, self-reflection leads to confidence, or self-reflection builds confidence by identifying one's strengths and weaknesses, recognizing your accomplishments, and addressing any self-doubts or limiting beliefs, again, with grace. And then confidence and trust. So at the beginning of the slide, I talked about finding ways that you can confide in yourself, right? I made the correlation between confiding in yourself and trust, right? So with confidence and trust, when you have confidence from your abilities from self-reflection, it becomes easier to trust your own judgment and confide in your own thoughts and emotions. Conversely, when you confide in yourself and you have a strong sense of self-trust, it can enhance your confidence and belief in your abilities. Let's go back to the first part. When you have confidence from your abilities, from self-reflection, it becomes easier to trust your judgment and confide in your own thoughts and emotions. Very often, I see in the individuals that I coach that they focus on the elements of themselves that are not the best, right? And not only do they focus on it, they create a whole narrative about it. And then the next thing you know, you start forgetting all of the ways that you were able to show up for yourself, and you focus on the ways that you didn't, right? So when you're working on your confidence, The goal is to regain that trust, regain that belief that you're going to show up for yourself, right? That your strengths are going to show up for you, that your courage is going to show up for you, that you'll be able to navigate around your fears. Okay, so that's the correlation between confidence and trust. It's about trusting yourself. Okay, so continuing in the conversation about finding the tools or I forgot what it was, discovering the parts of you that you can confide in. One of the ways that you can do that is through assessments. And I think we've all have done at least one assessment in our lifetime. I know they start as early as secondary school or high school, right? Trying to help you figure out what career you should first get into once you graduate, right? And then as you transition through that, maybe your job may have you have developmental assessments. So there is a lot of great value to assessments. So assessments assist in identifying the appropriate language to describe oneself, enabling us to go beyond our sometimes limited vocabulary. Assessments provide an opportunity to delve into aspects of ourselves that we may overlook or ignore, leading to a deeper understanding of who we are. And then lastly, assessments help affirm and celebrate the parts of ourselves that we already knew about, enhancing self-appreciation and building trust. I love that one, right? Because I think sometimes we're looking for something new because we're focused on trying to fix that part that we've become obsessed with, that we want to get rid of, right? That part of ourselves that we want to get rid of. And if we shift our mindset, we can actually focus on affirming what we already know about ourselves positively, right? And not only affirming it, but celebrating it and enhancing that self-appreciation. So here's some examples of some assessments that you could take. So the first one to the top right, I guess it would be the right corner, but it says it on the actual picture, is the Plum assessment. Plum assessment is really great for work style relevance, right? So if you're trying to figure out what are your work style talents, what your overall work style is, what your work preferences is, I would highly recommend the Plum assessment. The next one is the needs and values assessment. And there isn't actually an image for needs and values, but I just actually found this image that has a writing on it. But the needs and values assessment is great for exploring the people, things, and conditions we need and value as individuals. I am a huge fan of the needs and values assessment, so much so that I took the assessment. It's by Carolyn Weir, and I guess you could say repurpose it so it's a lot easier for folks to fill out. And I actually gave you all access to that in the worksheet that you'll be getting after this presentation or later on past this presentation. The next one is an Enneagram, and I added this in because this was a newer assessment. I think it's been around, well, at least my knowledge of it has been for the last 3 years. And every time I complete it, I get more clarity, more affirmation, more things that I can celebrate myself. And the Enneagram assessment provides insights into an individual's personality, motivation, fears, desires, strengths, and areas for growth. In addition to these assessments that were built out by other people, you really can't go wrong with self-reflection questions. So self-reflection questions help us to explore beyond what we see on the surface or in front of us and ask ourselves meaningful questions. So here are some questions that I conducted that I feel like would be great for this confidence, this journey to confidence conversation. So reflecting on my life today, what are some significant decisions that I made that have contributed to where I am now? What accomplishments or actions am I proud of myself for? What are some specific qualities or aspects about myself that I genuinely appreciate? When I face challenges or difficult situations, What specific traits or strengths do I rely on and find helpful? And then the last two I added in, or actually this one right here, based on feedback from others. It's very important that we have conversations with people who specifically make us feel safe, whose opinion we value, who's going to tell us the truth, but tell it in a graceful way. And I think that when you're trying to navigate through insecurities, get closer to your confidence, it's always good to have people who are just in your corner. You can call them your board of directors, right? So based on feedback from others, what are some specific things that they have shared that they appreciate about me? And then lastly, considering my abilities and qualities, which specific traits should provide me with confidence in various situations? Okay, so I decided to put together an example of how we can go through the steps of developing our confidence through self-exploration. So I have here I guess you could call it a case study, but this is Jared. And Jared is a second generation Canadian. His family is from Trinidad. So his parents are immigrants. He resides in Toronto with his brother. And growing up, Jared performed well academically and demonstrated a keen interest in learning. However, despite his accomplishments, he has faced difficulties in securing employment. Jared's brother, working as a successful developer, supports him financially, alleviating some of their financial burdens. But for Jared, sometimes when he looks at his brother and how well he's doing, it does make him feel insecure. Jared's journey to find stable employment has been arduous. Despite his academic success, he has faced some obstacles in securing a job that align with his aspirations and interests. The prolonged job search, coupled with rejections, has taken a toll on his confidence, leaving him feeling uncertain about his abilities. Jared aspires to build a career in data analytics, a field that has captivated his interests. He recognizes the potential for growth and impact in his industry and wishes to leverage his skills to excel in this domain. However, a recent layoff experience has further dampened his confidence and instilled doubt about his suitability for a career in data analytics. Okay, so let's say I get the opportunity to work with Jared. So the first thing I would say is Jared needs to get more clear about who he is. He tends to view himself in the light or the shadow of his brother. His brother is very successful. He's older and he's paying, he's making money. So all Jared sees is what he's not doing and compared to his brother. And so now we want to give Jared the tools to see what he does well as his own authentic self, right? So this is his plum assessment. His top 3 talents are execution. So he's exceptional at being accurate, utilizing attention to detail, reporting and record keeping, creating plans to accomplish work, and monitoring resources. And then conflict resolution. Jared is excellent at encouraging and building mutual respect and displaying sensitivity in difficult situations. And then lastly, innovation. Jared is able to find ways to improve the quality and the efficiency of work and not settle for good enough. And usually when I do this activity with my clients, I'll ask them when you see the results, is there anything that really shows up strongly for you? So the traits that I just went over, the descriptions, were the things that Jared said that he really aligns with, okay? Part 2 would be to have Jared do some reflecting, right? I have him answer some reflection questions. So the first one I would ask Jared is, what are some specific qualities or aspects about yourself that you genuinely appreciate? So Jared's response was, my ability to understand new technology, my discipline, Also, I have a strong attention to detail. And lastly, my friendliness. Then I said to Jared, I wanted you to talk to your family, right? He expressed that despite sometimes feeling insecure in relation to his family, he does have a supportive family that makes him feel safe, and he does value their opinions. So based on feedback from others, what are some specific things that they have shared that they appreciate about me? So Jared said, my parents said that I am very reliable. My brother said I'm very intelligent and learn difficult concepts easily. He also says that I have a great sense of humor with an extra R. Okay, so now we've gone through the assessment part, right? And we're learning from these assessments. We're reconnecting with who we are. We're affirming the things that we've learned about ourselves. So now we want to start to leverage what I coined confidence traits, right? Confidence traits in a nutshell are personality traits, or you could say they are self-reflection traits, but they're the parts of us that we can confide in, that we can trust, that are going to show up for us because we have seen it before, right? Others have seen it in us, right? These are the things that we can depend on. So we decided to highlight what Jared's confidence traits would be. So for him, it's execution, innovation, attention to detail, friendliness, reliability, intelligence, and humor, okay? So at the beginning of our conversation about Jared, we talked about how he was really struggling with his job search, right? He's a really smart guy, and when he does his job, he does it very well, but he's been struggling to figure out how to talk about himself and what he really excels at, right? So what I would say to Jared is, you have these confidence traits, right? Now we got to figure out how to frame them in a way that you can use them in your job search. So an example maybe of how he prepared for the job search or even an interview, here are 4 of the traits, and here are some ways that he can leverage them. So for execution, Jared can highlight his track record of completing tasks and projects on time and within budget. He can discuss his ability to set clear goals, develop action plans, and follow through on commitments, right? Innovation. Jared can demonstrate his ability to think outside the box and bring fresh perspectives to the table. Reliability. Jared can showcase his track record of meeting deadlines, honoring commitments, and delivering consistent results. He can also mention instances where he was relied upon by colleagues or superiors for his dependable nature. And then sense of humor. Jared can use his sense of humor appropriately during interviews to showcase his positive personality and ability to bring levity to situations, okay? This is so good, because another thing that comes up when I'm coaching individuals is they don't have the language to describe themselves, right? They're not sure, like, how do I take the fact that I'm an executor and I translate it into how it will show up for a future employer, right? And I'm going to give you all, I'm going to tell you all a little secret. So I've been really getting into ChatGPT. And so how I use ChatGPT is I will write out my original thoughts, original concepts, right? And then I'll ask it to edit it, or I'll ask for descriptions or words to further enhance the language that I want to use. So for this presentation, I came up with Jared's confidence traits, and then I went to ChatGPT and I said, can you help me put together some ways of describing how I can use these personality traits on my job search? And it gave me this language, right? It told me, hey, focus on your task completion and your projects, right? If you work with a budget, make sure you talk about how you're able to meet your budget on time and not overspend, right? If you're an innovative person, talk about how you think outside the box, right? Maybe how you use your critical thinking skills. So it doesn't have to all fall on you. There's a lot of resources out there that can help you to better talk about your skills, to better talk about your ability to the contributions you can make, okay? All righty. We're moving. I'm assuming everybody's doing good, so that's a good thing. So part 3 is, now that we have figured out our confidence traits, and we even have an example of how to leverage those confidence traits specifically with the job search, then now we need to talk about triggers, right? Because triggers come up. And we want to know how to navigate them, and we want to get back in alignment with our confidence traits, right? So one of the activities that I suggested, and we'll use Jared as an example, is that we create affirmations around, oh, you know what, I went off a little bit, but that's okay. We're adjusting. That's life. We have to make adjustments. So I'm going to go forward and then I'm going to go backward a little bit because I want to keep this in order. So the first thing is that triggers happen. Okay. Triggers feel permanent, but in reality, they are temporary. Here are some examples of how our triggers can show up. Emotional responses. Triggers are often invoke strong emotional reaction. In the moment, right? In the moment, you may experience heightened fear, anger, sadness, anxiety, or even joy, depending on the trigger and its association with past experience or memories. Then there's also physical sensations. Triggers can manifest as a physical sensation in the body. You may feel a tightening in your chest, knot in your stomach, your heart rate increase, tension in your muscles, or even sensations of being lightheaded or shaky. Okay. And then I'm going to skip to behavioral reactions. So triggers can prompt certain behaviors or actions. For example, you may feel compelled to withdraw or isolate yourself, engage in avoidance behaviors, become defensive or argumentative, or react impulsively without thinking through the consequences. The behavioral reactions is a big one, especially in the job search, because in the interview specifically, I often hear people say that when they feel triggered or they're feeling insecure in a moment, right, which causes them to feel triggered, they will, there's this concept of like fight or flight, right? And they'll often flee. So flee means abandon, you lose your words, you're not able to collect your thoughts again. So these are some examples of how triggers show up. So going back to Jared, one of the ways that he can help himself is to, again, go back to those confidence traits, right, that we identified are his strengths, right? So one of the things that I thought was, you should have affirmations that you tell yourself to realign with your confidence traits. So for his execution, Jared could say, I am proactive, take action to achieve my goals. I am efficient and effective in executing tasks and projects. For reliability, I am dependable and can be counted on to fulfill my commitments. I consistently deliver high quality work and meet deadlines. Innovation, I have a creative and innovative mindset that allows me to think outside the box. I embrace new ideas and approaches to solve problems and drive progress. And then with friendliness, I radiate warmth and friendliness, making others feel comfortable and valued. And I have a genuine interest in people and easily connect with others. Okay. So let's say that you are, your trigger shows up as, I don't know, a physical manifestation, right? Or maybe it's it's emotional, you just retreat, you get quiet, right? You have to find ways to get you out of the moment, right? Because I said in the beginning of this conversation, triggers feel permanent, but are temporary. Well, dealing with your triggers, healing from your triggers, right, can be done in the moment as well, right? So it doesn't feel as permanent. You have an immediate way to address it. So one of the things that I came up with was this toolkit called the Healing Toolkit. And the reason why I do this, honestly, because I learned from myself that, when I'm having a moment, right, a bad moment, I need to find something to address it immediately, right? And what eventually happens is that the bad moments don't go away. I just am better at showing up for myself when they do. So it's not about preventing them altogether. It's about being able to be present and to heal myself in the moment. So you all will have access to this, but the Healing Toolkit asks you some questions to help you identify those things that can help you when you're feeling triggered. And it is centered around the job search, but you can use this for any other thing. So one question can be, when I'm noticing the presence of self-doubt, I can say or do the following to confront and move past that self-doubt. The physical space that brings me most comfort, peace, and safeness is where? I genuinely enjoy myself when I get to engage with or interact with the following individuals. So it's about people, things, and physical spaces, okay? All right, so the next part of this conversation, or just to kind of wrap it up, is I talked about how healing isn't, triggers are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Triggers show up in the moment. Recently, I posted this video on my Instagram, and it's with Tabitha Brown. And it went, I guess you could say it went viral, I'm not sure. It has close to 600,000 views on it. I'm still kind of processing the fact that it does, but it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with what she said, and it just resonated and connected with so many people. So I wanted to play it for you because I wanted you all to, I think it's very relevant to this conversation. So here we go.
Something changed inside me, and I no longer want to be in charge of me. I wanted to be who he created me to be. Surrender. And I completely surrendered, submitted myself to him. That doesn't mean that I'm not triggered, right? But when something happens, right? Because I'm on a healing journey. Healing is not permanent. You can still get triggered. And so I can feel something, but because I'm on a journey, I know I need to take a minute. I know if I'm triggered by something. I'll be like, wait a minute, Tab, you about to react in a way that you shouldn't react. You don't work too hard on this. Yeah. Right? And so I just take a moment. Anytime we react out of emotion, it's most time not the right reaction. Yeah. You ain't processed yet. So yeah, so I just take time with it.
I thought that was so good because, again, when she said healing is not permanent, and it's not that you can't be healed. Actually, in the comments of the post, there was some debate going around because people were looking at it from a spiritual lens, and they were saying, how for them God will heal them, and two things can be true, right? You can believe that through your own spiritual journey or belief system that you can be healed, but you're still going to have triggers, right? So I think what she's saying is that instead of setting the expectation that once I deal with this trigger, it'll never show up again, you say to yourself, okay, I better know how to deal with this trigger in the moment so that when it happens again, I can show up for myself better. So you release the pressure, right? You release the potential shame that comes from this unrealistic expectation that once I address my triggers, that they'll never show up again. That's just not realistic, okay? So